Good evening, kids. Good evening, parents. In this lesson, we're going to be studying Caro-Can. There are children who are playing this opening, and we have kids in our classes who are doing this with the black side. But of course, if you are white, you also have to know this opening. Now, let's see um, a little bit of the introduction. So it starts with a c6, and now when the pawn goes to d5, you could play, d5, right? So this is Caro-Can opening. Now, white can play three different moves here. Uh, Probably what children are doing here, they take on d5, and so that's the first one that I'm going to explain you, and then e5, right? And then the idea with playing knight c3, protecting that pawn on e4 and knight e2. So we are going to come back to all that. But let's first see e takes d5, right? Pawn takes on d5, and now we can study different moves here for white. So look, learn from white and the black side because you may face this opening. Now, let's first check it out. What happens if white plays a move like a bishop to d3? That's the move I've seen in the chess tournaments. Kids are playing a lot this move. The teachers are teaching this move because it's easy, right, to develop the pieces with a bishop d3. Now, if you are black, you definitely have to think about the bishop on c8. You don't want to block that bishop, right? So you develop the piece, knight c6, you are taking the pawn on d4, c3, and you see the black is actually what the black is after knight 6, right? Black needs to develop this bishop. You cannot push pawn to e6, right? At the same time, what white is doing is, see, with this bishop f4, white is waiting for you to play that move e6. That's why white doesn't develop knight to f3, because the kids, they know if they play knight f3, you are going to play bishop g4, right? So they know that. So they are trying to play bishop f4 and waiting for you to play e6, but don't fall for that kind of trick. So here you develop the bishop to g4, and what can they do now, right? If they play f3, then they are weakening their king. You just go bishop h5. Later you can play bishop g6, and you can just develop by playing e6 and bishop e7 and castling. But if they play queen b3, now, yeah, there is this attack, right, on b7. So you protect the pawn, and the way you're going to protect the pawn is by playing queen c8. The queen is fine here, it's okay. Yes, you are blocking a little bit this rook on a8, but it's a nice defense. You are fine with a queen on c8, and after knight e2, you just continue with development, right? So let's see this: bishop e7, castling, and you are fine. So this is how you can play against this line in Caro-Can. So let's see this one more time. So what can happen is you take, and on bishop d3 develop the knight, and just here don't fall for any kind of tricks, like you don't play e6, right? You develop the bishop. And of course, if f3 is played, bishop h5 is knight f3 is played. Again, don't take on f3, right? But play e6, bishop e7, and castling. And here queen c8, right? And e6. And then this looks very, very nice. There is no problem here. Okay, so let's go back and see what other options kids can do. Here, pawn takes, right? Pawn takes. And kids could play move like c4, right? That's what also can happen. Now on c4, you can develop the piece knight f6, and on knight c3, I'm going to give you two options here, right? One option is just to play knight to c6. This is a real Caro-Can. It is very sharp, right? You're going to see some some really like unbelievable positions. The king moves into the center. It's great. If you like sharp positions, why not, right? Knight f3, you play bishop g4. I'm sure you can remember this, right? Those moves. Now, pawn goes to d5, you take in this move, queen b3. Now we have to stop here. It's dangerous, right? We have this attack on b7, right? Also, there's an attack on d5, right? With a knight and queen attacking on d5. So here you really, if you have to know every move if you go into this position. You cannot go into this position unless you are really ready, right? So you have to know to capture on f3, and when pawn takes, you play e6. You cannot protect this pawn, right? You must play e6. And now queen b7, you take on d4. Look, you are playing a counter attack. Now things are happening here, right? After knight d4, the bishop moves to b5, right? You must take that. There's no other option. And now the white is playing Zwischenzug. Instead of playing queen b5 check, right? The white first play queen c6 check. And you cannot play queen d7 because they take on a8. So you have to play king e7. And now queen b5. Now your king is on e7. But it is okay. Look, we have a 5 pawns. There's also 5 pawns here. White has a pawn on f3 that is double pawn, right? So we just have to figure out what to do with this bishop on f8, right? But you will see it's okay. You are not in a bad position. You offer a trade. Now you want to trade the queen, right? Because your king is in a position that it's a little bit unpleasant, right? So knight takes, and you take with a queen, right? So look, you are perfect here. That there's no like any kind of attack right now. So white trades the queen, you take, and you are okay here. Now watch. Let's say the white plays a move like bishop e3 or bishop f4, right? On bishop e3, you can play king e6. And what is important move is this bishop e4. Why? Because you don't want the rook to go to e1 and attack your king. Now, black has no problems here. You are okay. All right. So for instance, if the rook would go to d4, you can play check and then play rook c4 and defend yourself there. So this would be fine, right? So even on bishop f4, right? Look, you play king e6, and on castling, bishop e4. Now, why did we play king e6, and why do we go into the center of the board? Because it's better to have a king on e6 than to have a king on d7 or on e8, because you are blocking your rooks. And here with the bishop e4, just don't allow this move. Rook e1, and you are going to be fine. And what I was mentioning before, like on rook d4, you play check, and you put your rook there and protect yourself, and black is okay, right? You could actually even maybe win this game because those two double pawns, kids sometimes don't know how to play the end games. So you are fine here. So that's one line. Look, you could play a move like this, knight c6 here. That's a real Caro-Can, right? So of course there's so much here you could right, there are so many different lines, but I just wanted to introduce you to this so that you know what's going on. Now, I'm going to give you another option. If you don't like so much risk, look, if you don't want to go into those crazy positions, then what you can do, you can play here a move e6, and that's fine, right? And after e6, right, you are protecting your pawn on d5, and this is significantly more quieter position, right, than the first one I showed. Knight f3, you move the bishop to b4. Do not be afraid of queen a4 because you are not losing a bishop, you just developed a knight c6. Now pawn takes and you take with a knight, right? So this is fine. If the pawn don't take, then look, in some positions you are going to take. Just wait for this bishop to be developed, right? If the bishop goes to d3 or something, then you take on c4, get that tempo, and white has this isolated pawn on d4. So you could play that way. But if the pawn takes, you take with a knight, and after bishop d2, knight c6. Very nice development. No problem for black here. Now, of course, you can play this position different ways, right? So there are so many different moves here. Look, if you would go into the theory of this position, different ideas, different moves, but this is the basic. This is what you could remember, right? And then you can play this. Now let's see. Let's see. Is there? I mean, let's just see a little bit right here. What you can do? You can play like this: Bishop e7 comes back, goes to f6, attacks the pawn on d4. That's the idea of that move. And also, the bishop is protecting the king on this side. a3. Now, why a3? Because sometimes this knight can jump to b4, attack, and even knight e3 can happen and come back to d5. So those are some of the ideas. So a3 is kind of a useful move to stop that knight b4 move. Now queen c2, and here you can play two moves. You can play h6 if you like, right? Or you can play g6. Now if you play g6, you allow this bishop to go to h6, but it's okay. See, rook e8, and nice, right? You have a solid game. Rook d1, and now knight takes on c3, pawn takes on c3, or even queen can take on c3, and then you just develop. Now, of course, this is dangerous, right? If you take knight d4, knight d4, bishop d4, it's quite dangerous because here maybe like bishop g6 could happen. So I would not go into that. That would be very, very tricky to take that pawn on d4, right? So here like knight e3 you take, and then you develop the bishop. Okay, so that's another line, right, where you can play e6 if you like it, right? So there is one sharp line with knight to c6, right, this move, or quiet line with e6. So both of them are fine. You can use both moves, both ideas, and play this opening. Let's see, is there anything else we need to know when pawn takes pawn? And I think not really. I mean, of course, white can play different ideas here, but I think we studied bishop d3 and c4, and that's the most important. You don't have to be, like if the kids play knight f3 and so on, that then you don't have a problem. You just develop the pieces. Don't, like, sometimes kids, they actually play like this. They play bishop b5 and they want to pin you, but you are absolutely fine here. You don't have any problems, right? This attack is not dangerous at all, right? This kind of attack here. I noticed that kids are also doing this kind of attack in a Sicilian defense, but it's not dangerous. You just play rook c8 and you're absolutely fine. There is no attack here on c6, right? Even queen can come to b6 and protect you, and now, yeah, you just develop the pieces and continue the game. Okay, that's an introduction to the Caro-Can defense, an introduction to this move, e takes d5, what children are doing a lot in the chess tournaments. Now, see this one more time, right? Analyze a little bit on your own, try to remember, and yeah, we'll see the games. Okay, see you in next lesson. Bye-bye.